Good morning, good afternoon, welcome all. Thank you so much for joining the POCUS Certification Academy for today's POCUS Bytes webinar. The webinar is now beginning, so all lines have been muted. Please use Q&A box for any questions or the chat box for any comments you may have throughout the webinar. The presentation will include a PowerPoint presentation, and also we'll have time for Q&A with Rawan. And our topic is GP code and first trimester scan, and our speaker is Rawan Alsukairi. Rawan is a registered RDMS sonographer, double boarded in abdomen and OBGYN specialties. Since 2016, she has been a member of SDMS. Rawan has made it this year to be within the nominated finalist competitors for the annual scientific presentation competition held by SDMS. In her topic, intrauterine growth restriction. In 2017, she graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology, RIT, in Rochester, New York, with a bachelor degree, and she's double majors in biomedical science and diagnostic medical sonography with minor in Spanish language. What an accomplishment, Rawan. She traveled to the Dominican Republic for her final research project titled Home the Midwife. Currently, she's working in the field as a sonographer and assigns students and beginners under her name for teaching purposes. Rawan loves teaching and was a teaching assistant for human anatomy and physiology lab, as well as medical genetics. She's very eager, dedicated sonographer who works currently aside from her job as a speaker educator. Rawan believes that the field of sonography is her whole life, and she would love to continue pursuing higher education. Thank you so much, Rawan, for joining us today. We're so excited to hear you talk. Welcome. Thank you again for being with us today.
Good morning and hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining. It's a pleasure to have you all and have this big number of people. And thank you for the introduction, Daria. Today, we are going to talk about the first trimester ultrasound, and hopefully I am going to have it simple and for basic for those who are just beginners, so it's not that advanced. So we're gonna start with the parity code, as it's something everybody who is doing OB has to know. Parity code is also, they call it GP code. It has letters within it, G, A, P, B, C, D, E. What do those mean? Gravity is the first one. It refers to the number of pregnancies regardless of the outcomes, whereas the parity is actually the number of times of giving birth to an infant, whether that was alive or dead, weighing at least 500 grams or estimated to be at least at 20 weeks of gestational age. So A is standing for the number of times she got pregnant regardless of the outcomes. B, after the parity, is the number of full-term birth, how many times she labored. C is the number of a premature birth, those babies who were delivered earlier than the time the baby is fully developed. D is the number of abortions, stillbirth, or ectopic pregnancies, whereas E is the number of living children she has with her at the moment. So here I'm gonna have a whole bunch of examples for you to put all of those together to see if you have got it. G2P1 is a question 1. Go ahead and let me know what does this mean.
Had about 40% who participated, so we'll give it another 10 seconds to respond.
Okay.
All right, let's bring the results up.
Okay, she got pregnant twice and one time labor. The majority of you answered correctly, which I'm happy about. So gravidity twice means she got pregnant twice. Parity is, again, how many times she gave birth. She only did labor once. Means this is now her second pregnancy and no abortion. Now we're gonna move into another example, G4P3013. What does it mean?
We are at 30%, so I'll give another 10 to 15 seconds to respond.
Okay.
All right, let's launch these results for you one.
Okay. So we are almost gonna be like 50-50. 45% thought the correct answer is A, and 41 are B. So when it is, she got pregnant 4 times, 3 labors, 0 premature birth, 1 abortion, and 3 living children. So you just want to know the order, what comes first, in order to be able to put all the numbers correctly. Gravita, how many times she got pregnant, then how many times she got labor. What comes right after PB is C, which is premature. After premature, we're going to be speaking about abortion and living children. Is she pregnant now? That's another question. Let's see what you are thinking.
And you can submit those in chat.
Submit this in chat, and just remember we said she had 1 abortion, 3 living children, G4. That's a hint. So is she pregnant now? I want to see what the people are thinking.
A lot of no's.
Yay. She is not, because she had 1 abortion. If there were no 1 abortion, I would say yes, she is pregnant at the moment, but having that 1 abortion with the 3 living children, she must be non-pregnant. Those are total of 4. 3 plus 1 are 4. She got pregnant 4 times. That's it. If she is pregnant now, I would make G5 instead of 4. Another example, G3P1101.
We're 20%. Maybe this one is a little harder.
Yeah.
Another 10
That's
seconds.
why I gave you choices, no idea, and this is hard.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And here's the results.
So the majority of you think the correct answer is B, 80% of you. So 1 full-term delivery, that for sure, as she has P1, 1 premature, 0 abortion, 1 baby is alive, and gravida, she got pregnant 3 times. Is she pregnant now?
Getting a lot of yeses. So
Yep, correct. Okay. So that's another example, G4P0030.
We are at 45%, so another 5 seconds.
I like the honest people who picked 4 times pregnant. That's the only thing I am sure of. 8% of you answered this, and the majority answered the first answer. And yep, that's correct though. 4 pregnancies and 3 pregnancies ended. Another example, G1P1002. This one is interesting and you're gonna love it. We're gonna pull the question, the polling for this example. Daria?
Rawan, I apologize, I didn't have that example in
That's okay.
4 questions.
You can write this down in the comment. What do you think? Yeah, people are getting it. Twins, that's why. So why number 2? We have 2 because we had 1 pregnancy, 1 full-term birth, 2 kids at home are twins. And here they came. Okay, so we are done with the GB coding. And if you wanna have the first slide later on, this is gonna be reposted on the website of POCUS again, if you need to review. Trimester of a pregnancy. Each pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. This is why we call them tri. Tri means 3. Each trimester is divided into 13 weeks. So when we speak of OB, we speak in terms of trimesters. Now we are covering first trimester only in this webinar, but I want you to have the full picture. First trimester is from the beginning until 13 weeks of a pregnancy, whereas second trimester is anytime between 14 to 27 weeks of a pregnancy, and third trimester is 28 to 40 weeks when she is fully on term. So there are 2 scans that must be performed on first trimester. We do by 10 weeks scan, viability to ensure is there a heartbeat on the baby, to ensure, yep, it's viable. And by that time, it's the best time to determine whether it's single or multiple. If it's multiple, how many fetus do we have? It's the easiest time to detect how many fetus you have and distinguish the type of twin, the chorionicity and amniosity. Because the further you go in a pregnancy, the more the uterus will expand and it will be harder for you to detect the T sign and lambda. We will discuss those later on. Dating and CRL, it's the best perfect time to be dating how far we are in gestational age, how big the baby is measuring in weeks, and you will know the estimated date of delivery, and the LMB, her first day of last period, would be matching with this scan much better than any further earlier time of scanning. Early anatomy, yes, the anatomy, we do it in 20 weeks when she is about the 5th month of a pregnancy, but that doesn't mean an early scan, we are not gonna look to see if there is any suspicious pathologies. with with the anatomy of the baby. And then by 12 to 13 weeks of first trimester, which is the end of first trimester, this is the time of doing nuchal translucency measurement, which is measuring the thickness behind the baby's neck to rule out trisomies. So terminology based on timing of labor, we have a prematured baby, post-dated baby, and post-term baby. Prematured is the baby delivered between 24 and 37 weeks of gestational age. Post-dated baby is anyone who didn't get delivered until after 40 weeks, and post-term baby got delivered after 42 weeks of gestational age. First trimester definition is defined as the first 13 weeks of a pregnancy, as I discussed earlier, following the last normal menstrual period, divided into 3 phases. So the phases of first trimester are conceptus phase, embryonic phase, and fetal phase. The conceptus phase is the really first one that occurs after 2 weeks of her first day of last period, where the gestational sac is too small at this point. You can barely see it. This is why at this time, we would rather do the exam endovaginally, along with the embryonic phase, when it's like 6 to 10 weeks. By 6 to 10 weeks, you are expected to see longer gestation, bigger in size gestational sac that has the fetus, which look like a piece of rice. And by this time, it must have a heart rate. As you can see, they were doing M mode to measure the heart rate of the baby. And by this, we know it's viable pregnancy, intrauterine, with the heart rate, whatever it is measuring. This one must be actually evaluated endovaginally for seeing the fetus in much better view, without having attenuation. But in this image, actually, which I had from the Google, this is actually using curve transducer. As you can see, the tip of the image is curved. It's not giving you the round shape of endovaginal scan, but I would rather do it endovaginally than suffer with the fat layers at the top of her belly. Then the last phase of first trimester is fetal phase, when the baby, you can now detect, you can really see a baby by this time. The mothers love it because by this time they can see the nose, the face, the legs, everything look very clear. The baby is larger. It's by 10 to 12 weeks, we measure the NT nuchal translucency between 11 and 13 weeks. It's much better by 12 and 13 than the 11 weeks to rule out any chromosomal abnormalities, as I mentioned. And yeah, by this time, I would do the curve transducer instead of endovaginal. And definitely, I am not going to use the endovaginal to measure the nuchal translucency. We use it with the curve. And we still do the CRL, as you can see in this image, crown rump length, to see how big the baby is measuring in weeks. And then we compare it to the one was used by LMB. So now why I brought this picture from anatomy to see and appreciate where the baby is sitting. And so many of the women fear endovaginal scanning in early pregnancy because they feel that the transducer is going to kill the baby. It's not, or it's going to make the gestational sac rupture. It is not going to do any of that part. It's completely safe. The way how she is made, the transducer get inserted through the vagina, but it only touches the internal OS. There is external OS and internal OS. That's the only thing it can touch. And this part, we call it cervix, and then fundus, and then body, and then fundus. The baby, the gestational sac, is all the way up in the endometrium in this area, where we are really far away from. So it will never ever get all the way, it will never ever go all the way there. So it will not kill the baby. Endovaginal ultrasound is really safe. It will not really affect you. So I hope this clarify and answer and make everybody who fear this more comfortable. So here is again a picture. I know for sure we used endovaginal transducer because you see the tip of the image is different from those having the curve, and those are the endovaginal that look more round. And here we have a yolk sac and the fetus and the gestational sac. So normal measurement for calculating the mean sac diameter, this was taken from Romack-Wilson book. You can use length plus depth plus width of the gestational sac divided by 3. The gestational sac is visible with transvaginal sonography when the mean sac diameter is at least 2 to 3 millimeter, which correspond to 4 weeks. Visible transabdominally when the mean sac diameter is 5 millimeter, which correspond to 5 weeks of gestational age. That's why I would rather just do it with transvaginal approach, which is safe, as I explained. Gestational age in days is the mean sac diameter in millimeter plus 30. It will give you the gestational age in days. And mean sac diameter of 6 millimeter will correspond to 36 gestational days. Crown rump length, long axis measurement of the embryo, the CRL we call it, it increased by approximately 1 millimeter every day. Whereas the yolk sac maximum diameter is 5 to 6 millimeter, which correspond to a CRL of 30 to 45 millimeter. So crown rump length, as we are measuring in here, we measure it from the tip to the end, and here and further by 11 to 13 weeks, still we measure it. It's most accurate method of dating pregnancy, as I explained, reported to be accurate to within plus or minus 4.7 days for dating pregnancies. It's measured from the top, or what we call it, the crown, to the middle of the buttock, the rump. Length increase approximately 1 millimeter again, as we discussed in that table, and it measures until only 13 weeks of gestation. So now, when would you perform nuchal translucency? This is a polling question, part 2, Daria. Let's see if you guys know when we would measure NT. Yeah, which I already
right
mentioned.
now.
Okay, let's give you a few minutes.
Yep, we are getting a lot of responses, so we are at 50%, so I'll give another 5 seconds. There you go.
All right. So the majority of you answered correctly, which is good. We would do it between 11 to 13 weeks of gestation. Okay, nuchal translucency, as you can see in this picture, this is this part with NT. Normal measurement has to be 1.1 to maximum 3 millimeter. We do not exceed the 3 millimeter. First trimester screen for chromosomal abnormalities. Any increase in nuchal translucency beyond the 3 millimeter, we know that there is association of a chromosomal abnormalities, and you will be detecting pathologies further on in the pregnancy and in the anomaly screen. It's measured between 11 to 13 weeks. Mid-sagittal section of the fetus should be in a neutral spine, in a neutral position with the spine down. If the baby is laying on the belly, where it's the opposite, you would not measure it at all and wait until the baby lay down and not hyperextending the neck to the back or to the front. Maximum thickness of the subcutaneous translucency between the skin and soft tissue overlaying the cervical spine is measured from inner to inner. And anytime again, it's greater than 3 millimeter, we would say it's abnormal. Gestational sac is an ultrasound term used to describe the chorionic cavity that contain amnion, which is the fluid that look black in the image, the embryo, and the yolk sac. The yolk sac that look like a ring. Seen when the beta HCG level is 5,000. Yolk sac is sign of healthy pregnancy, which definitely we need. Without the presence of yolk sac, neither fetal pole. The best term to be used would be sac-like structure, because we don't know now if this is a cyst or something else. You don't know what this could be. So here is the gestational sac that has the embryo and yolk sac. This is the yolk sac that look like a ring. And again, gestational sac, embryo, and yolk sac that look like the ring. Those are sign of healthy pregnancy. I want to see them. And the yolk sac role in embryonic development as it provide nutrition to the baby. This is why it's highly important. It's the site of initial hematopoiesis at this point of the fetus life. It provide endocrine, metabolic, and immunoglobulin functions, contribute in the development of the fetus, GI, and reproductive system. So we don't want the yolk sac to be measuring lower than 3 millimeter, neither greater than 7 millimeter, because both of them are abnormal. Will have high association of abnormal pregnancy, and this is why you would keep your eyes on it. VITELLINE duct is the duct that is connected to the yolk sac. Also, they call it omphalomesenteric duct. It contains an artery and vein, a transport blood, element, nutrition, and primordial sex cell from the yolk sac to the embryo. So now question number 2 of part 2, EDD is calculated by what? Is it by using first day of last period, or is it ultrasound CRL measurement, or last day of last period, or A and B, or none of the above? EDD means estimated date of delivery, the date we are expecting her to be fully term or to have the labor.
We are 50%, so another couple of seconds.
This is interesting. We are having randoms in here, but a lot of you think A and B, or if not, first day of last period. So at least that's good. They know it's first day of last period. Yes, we actually, EDD is calculated by using first day of last period. And yes, also we can do it by the CRL, but for a more correct answer for this, I wanted A. EDD, expected date of delivery. Some you can also use the wheel if you are gonna ask her for first day of last period. The wheel gives the EDD by using LMB. EDD is calculated from the last period, first day of last period. If the early dating scan, calculate the EDD to be also within 5 days of EDD by LMB. So, which means anytime a pregnant walk into the clinic, you would see whoever is doing the exam will ask her, when was your first day of last period? We would use it. We would see what the wheel is giving us. The wheel will let us know how far is she measuring now in gestational age and the EDD, the expected date of delivery. Then we will do the first trimester CRL in ultrasound. That one also would give me the gestational age and the expected date of delivery. Then we will compare the two of them, and we are expecting at any time between 9 and 10 weeks of gestational age for both of those to be matching. So if they are with the matching within 5 days, then yes, we would go with the one by LMB. If LMB is unknown, she doesn't know. Some women would come to the clinic and she really had no clue when was her first day of last period, or the dating scan is different from the EDD that was calculated by LMB, like the one you had from ultrasound scanning is different from the EDD you had by her LMB by more than 5 days. Then by that time, you would use the EDD from early dating scan because she literally had no clue with her LMB. If a pregnant had more than one ultrasound during pregnancy and each of them keeps giving you different expected date than the earliest ultrasound estimation, then it should be used as your really first one you did is the one you would keep following, as it should be the one more accurate than when you progressed in time in a pregnancy. So use at a situation where 3 different exams gave you total different EDD, go back into the really first scan she had and use that EDD of the really first exam than the one at the moment, which is the 3rd or 4th ultrasound that are still all of them non-consistent. M mode, what about M mode? M mode is the way of measuring a heart rate rather than the spectral Doppler is using M mode for especially this time of pregnancy. The AIUM recommend measuring heart rate using M mode and avoiding spectral Doppler as much as you can in early pregnancy to avoid high acoustic output. Remember ALARA principle. This is why you don't want to make the baby be exposed to high power. So AIUM prefer to have you be measuring the heart rate using M mode. Spectral Doppler should not be used routinely. You would use it further in a pregnancy when the baby is measuring greater than 14 or 15 gestational age. If used, use it with cautions and only when the benefit would outweigh the risk. And the cardiac activities start in the baby between 5 to 6 weeks of gestation. So now the question number 3 of part 2, AIUM recommend measuring heart rate using which mode during early pregnancy, which I just said.
You're 52%, so another 5 seconds.
Yes, almost all of you answered correctly. So we would use M mode. Definitely, I am avoiding spectral Doppler at this early time of a pregnancy to avoid high power. And this is about it. Let's see if you have any question. This is pretty much it, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rawan.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions that came in throughout your presentation, so I'm just going to read it. And then if anyone has additional questions, feel free to submit it to Q&A box. The first question, why do you not consider 42 weeks in the 3rd trimester? Because for me, the 3rd trimester is from 28 to 42 weeks. Some explanation 28 through 40 weeks. So
why would we consider the, let's get back into the slide. So we call it a trimesters because it's term of duration, and they are 3 of them. So if you wanna divide the 40 days into 3 sections, it will be first trimester is definitely until 13 weeks. You cannot expect the 14 weeks to be first trimester. This is what's highly important for me. For me, I don't want to see a patient who comes for 9 weeks for ultrasound, and then she doesn't come back for follow-up until 14 weeks. 14 weeks is the one lost in the middle. She is losing the benefit of being scanned for ruling out trisomies, which we have to be measuring the NT 11 to 13. So if she came 14 weeks rather than 11 to 13, we now no longer can measure NT, and the baby is still too small for the 20 weeks anomaly screen, anatomy scan. So what you want to know, rather than focusing on the numbers or like 13 or 14, if that's what's your concern, I would be more focusing on what is important to do and when, rather than I will call the second trimester starting 14 or 17 or whatever you want to name it, then really not missing what's highly important. You don't want to miss on first trimester the viability by 9 or 10 weeks, and the NT, the nuchal translucency between 11 and 13. I really get upset when somebody miss her NT scan and she just came to me the 14 or 16 weeks. What am I going to do for 14 or 16? I couldn't do NT, and I cannot even really evaluate the full anomaly screen, which is more properly be done at least 18 weeks, if not 20 weeks of pregnancy. I hope this answers your questions.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
The second question, what would you call a, and I apologize if I mispronounced, nuchal lucency measurement of 3.2? What would you call it?
Nuchal translucency, I don't want it to be greater than 3. So 3.2, I would be, I am not going to say it's within upper limit of normal. I would raise the complaint to the radiologist and make him or her deal with the situation and follow up and have the eyes open into their anomaly screen time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Question is, when could you use the measure of nasal bone?
We have to be measuring at the level of the nasal bone for sure, as you saw in the picture we had. Because if the nasal bone is not present, then you know it's not the correct level of measuring the NT. And if you tried the fetal maternity website to have the nuchal translucency certificate, anytime you submit any picture that doesn't have a nasal bone, it will be rejected. It has to be zoomed out on the level where you see only the chest and you see nasal bone, and you are really measuring the nuchal translucency, not something out beyond where it's actually amnion and it's not really the NT. And if it doesn't have a nasal bone by protocol, it's wrong. It will not give you the correct measurement. And you have to be also measuring the widest portion. You would not just go find any thinner area to make it within 1.123. We would measure the widest ever, and then it will be accurate.
Thank you. I'm reading some comments. People are really interested in a lot of anomaly scans and, you know, just so we hear you. We may bring Rawan or someone else to speak on that. She's also having 2 additional webinars in February and March.
I will be touching on determining the type of it when di, mono, di, and upcoming webinars if you come in February and March. Those are topics to be touching on in the upcoming webinars. I don't want to throw all of them from now. So stay tuned.
Yes, and thank you so much, Rawan. This has been such a pleasure hearing your presentations. For everyone, this was recorded, and you will get a link within a couple of days to go back to it, rewatch it. Maybe you have some more questions, feel free to email us, and we will connect you with Rawan. And then again, you can join Rawan again in February and March. We'll get those dates set and send you the registration link. We really appreciate you joining us today. And if you're interested in getting a certification, please feel free to reach out. Again, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daria, and have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thank you all for coming and for listening.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you.